It's the Misfits.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the 12 Days of Misfits. Andrew and I are on day 8.
Yes,
We are 5 days away from Christmas.
we are.
I'm doing better on the points this time.
You are. You are currently actually even. We have gone 7 days, and you have 7 points, even though you started out 0-2.
This
So
is the opposite of our
this-
fantasy league. Shout out to our
yeah,
all
you
of
didn't
our
even
friends
make
at
the
home.
playoffs, and I'm about to. Well, by the time this airs, I have been eliminated from the playoffs because both of my quarterbacks and 2 of my running backs are all out for the week. So
Yeah,
it was a nice run.
opposite of that there. So
But yeah, we're on day 8, and so Brandon is going to go ahead and reach in to his stocking, and we are going to see what we have for today.
further down at the bottom, get more challenging. All right, so today we are going to be in Isaiah chapter 40, verses 1 through 11.
All right, so Isaiah 40, 1 through 11. All right, so Isaiah 40, 1 through 11 says this. Comfort, comfort, my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and announce to her that her time of forced labor is over. Her iniquity has been pardoned. She has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. A voice of one crying out, prepare the way of the Lord in the wilderness. Make a straight highway for our God in the desert. Every valley will be lifted up, and every mountain and hill will be leveled. The uneven ground will become smooth, and the rough places a plain. And the glory of the Lord will appear, and all humanity together will see it, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. A voice was saying, cry out. Another said, what should I cry out? All humanity is grass, and all its goodness is like the flowers of the field. The grass withers, the flowers fade, when the breath of the Lord blows on them. Indeed, the people are grass. The grass withers, the flowers fade, but the word of our God remains forever. Zion, herald of good news, go up on a high mountain. Jerusalem, herald of good news, raise your voice loudly. Raise it, do not be afraid. Say to the cities of Judah, here is your God. See, the Lord God comes with strength, and his power establishes his rule. His reward is with him, and his gifts accompany him. He protects his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them in the fold of his garment. He gently leads those that are nursing. Now, Brandon, you do have potential for 2 points here. So we actually have a chance at going beyond a day ahead point wise.
Well, that's great. Okay, because that's where I was leading. Is like I want
to give you one
disclaimer.
Heads up, is that one of these things is a part of the Christmas story, but you may not necessarily think of it as part of the Christmas story because of who it involves.
Okay.
So it's part of the Christmas story. Anytime we talk about the Christmas story, this part always gets thrown in. Go ahead and see what you come up with.
All right. So I was initially seeing kind of 2 locations to pull out here. My first one, I think I'm looking at starting in verse 3, reading from NIV. A voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be raised up, every mountain and hill made low. The rough rugged shall become level, and rugged places a plain. And the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all the people will see it. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken. And I'm starting there, seeing as the declaration of what has been made from God previously of the birth of Jesus. And we're seeing the Lord's glory revealed, as we see in verse 5, through Jesus being made in the form of man, is where the one I'm going to start with.
Okay, so you actually have it right, but you have the wrong verse.
Okay.
For the first part. And you actually have the right verse, but the wrong part of it for the second part.
Go figure.
So do you want to
flip-flop.
look at verse 3 again and see if you can figure this part of it out? Because this is one where when we look at the entirety of the gospel narrative of the Christmas story, this verse is listed there. But who is it actually talking about?
Let me read it here again. A voice of one calling in the wilderness. Excuse me. I feel like there's a good pause there that I wasn't seeing before. A voice of one calling in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God.
Who is that actually referring to? A voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Who would that be in reference to?
I want to say Jesus.
No.
That's what I'm trying. I'm not sure.
So here's what we've got. When we talk about the story of Christmas within the Gospels, specifically starting in Luke, the nativity story that everybody is familiar with is Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 1, which is like 78 verses or some really long amount, begins with the story of John the Baptist being born, right?
Yes.
Zechariah is the high priest. He goes into the temple to the Holy of Holies. God speaks to him through Gabriel and says, your barren wife is going to have a son. You're going to name him John, and he is going to prepare the way of the Lord. Zechariah laughs, says this is impossible, and so he's made mute until he agrees to name the boy John after John is born. And the reason this is part of the Christmas story is, one, this John the Baptist has to come before the Messiah can come. That's what we see in verse 3. A voice to one crying out, prepare the way of the Lord in the wilderness, make a straight highway for our God in the desert. Every valley will be lifted up, and mountain and hill will be leveled. Uneven ground will become smooth, and the rough places a plain. And the glory of the Lord will appear, and all of humanity will see it. John the Baptist has to come in order for the Messiah to come. He is the one that is preparing Jesus' way. But also during that story, Mary goes to Elizabeth while she is pregnant.
And that's where the baby
and the baby jumps. And we understand that both babies are not just cousins, not just babies, but both of them have been empowered with the Spirit for different tasks. So that's the first one that you didn't actually get. However, you started in the right direction when you started going through this idea of the glory of the Lord will appear, everything like that, going in verse 5. And then as you go down through, you get to verse 10. See, the Lord God comes with strength, and his power establishes his rule. His reward is with him, and his gifts accompany him. He protects his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carried them in the fold of his garment. He gently leads those that are nursing. And that is where you were headed with your first explanation of this idea of the fact that the glory of the Lord has come, and it actually has come in strength, but the world does not recognize it.
Yeah, not as we've talked about, and I think one of the other ones, not the strength that the world was expecting.
Right. But we see
powerful leader.
But we see the strength of the fact that we have God in human form, and yet he serves the people. He's a shepherd that protects his flock and carries them in the fold of his garment. It's not a brute strength, but it's a strength that the world should recognize, even though we don't. So the good news, Brandon, is
ho ho ho,
you did get a point.
1 point.
And so we're still on track. We're eight days in. You have 8 points. You could have gotten 2, but at least you got the 1.
Yeah, and I would have gone. That's the verses I was headed to 10 and 11 afterwards. But yeah, like you said, definitely had it flip flopped on.
You had
where I was going.
You got a big piece of it. You just missed the much more obvious piece. So anyway, this is day 8. We're going into day 9. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Brandon's chugging along. So we'll see how far he can go here tomorrow on the 12 days of Misfits.
It's the Misfits.